I ended up staying and finishing out high school at the end of a year and a half. But WVU guy. I like to think about
How are we doing?
Probably pull back
it's.
on them.
I always say it's not quite as nice as Ohio, but everyone's
Like
like
right there.
10% racist. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, I think that's
Very
you
friendly
can
city.
relax or reflect.
You know what? I like it. Well, I think I'm going to ask questions at the end. So they're probably going to be determined by what hasn't
The
been
feed's
asked
working
yet.
fine.
My biggest ones were going to be for the idea John had. It's like, hey, you're one of the younger guys here. We can talk about some.
Yeah, but you talk about kind of like from a, I think that's important because so much of the talk is we want to retain, you want to attract. Okay, let's talk to someone from a younger perspective.
Yeah, one thing I want to get on, sort of like it's in the end, it's always job creation. It doesn't matter how many microcalories or calories you have. No one's gonna care. But the other thing is sort of mid-tier household. Like there's a lot. There's a lot of garbage and really nice stuff here. But it's like, if you're a normal 20 to 30 year old, how are you paying $1,300 a month for boundary lots? It's not going to happen.
Well, the other thing is where's the
Denny, they want us
for
out
the
there to build
younger
the dice.
families, the 3-bed, 2-bath new build.
Yeah. That doesn't require $70,000 of renovation.
Let me tell you, my home is about 120 years old. It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work. And then some,
Well, new homes are a lot of work, let alone 120.
but it's like we bought it right at the kind of the tail, like right around that real hot point where it's like really where everything was getting snapped up like that. Well, the lucky part was I had to sell 2 homes. I had to sell one in Charleston and one in Tallahassee. Neither one of them made it out the first weekend that was on the market.
Did you find private sellers or did banks snap them up?
Private sellers.
Private.
Yeah, we did one in Charleston. I don't know if we even did an open house. We put it on the market on like a Tuesday, and by Friday we had our guy in my house in Tallahassee. We put it on the market on a Wednesday, and it lasted like there were a couple of hiccups, but I mean we were getting offers because that, like you said, where our price point was something so that we couldn't see. So when they saw something at that price point, they're like, okay, that's something. And like the one in Charleston, we just redone because we were sitting on a hill and the foundation. We had to redo the entire foundation. So you got new foundation, new things, all that, and that price point, like,
You're not going to be.
it flew off. But here you don't see it. You don't see like you're even not, I don't even see like the $260. That's not here. It's either at the lower end, over here having
It's that middle ground. There's just nothing there.
Come on.
Hey, Jenny.
Well, Real familiar. No, I don't.
I put some out of it.
I missed you the other day. Mark Kelly? Oh, you were playing? No, I wasn't able to play, man. I think I'm going to try to play.
Are you going to take questions? Maybe get three.
I'm not exactly sure what
like I said about Tread Elm. So on the road, I've always felt more was more kind of like hours than wheeling. You know what I mean?
It's in an odd place because Bethlehem's kind of the same way. Like I'm wheeling and breast, but like I can't vote in this election.
Right.
You know, so it's in that weird kind of. Maslin in Canton, Ohio.
Folks, we're going to give this just a few
I
more
went to
minutes.
technically it's called Maslin Perry High School.
Folks here, Mr.
But where the
We're trying to get a few more chairs
Perry
out.
Township is within Maslin, so it's like this weird
Excellent. So
stretch.
we'll give it just a couple
Basically,
minutes.
Maslin High
so that
School was the
people
one
join
that would
the
always
season.
coach all of our good athletes. So we hate Maslin where I'm from. We always root for Canton McKinley, but we don't really like them either.
The enemy is my friend.
Pretty much, yeah, very much so. Now, granted, Canton, they coach our kids too, because like half of Perry Township's in Canton, the other half's in Maslin. It's kind of a strange scenario.
I hadn't been there in a long time, and I went up to cover Randy Moss getting in the Hall of Fame.
The Hall of Fame is fun. It's one of those weird places over. Like, I lived there my whole life. I've been there twice.
But I lived in Florida. You know, I lived in Naples, Florida. Every time I went to the beach,
See, my parents, it's funny you mentioned they're buying houses. They bought a house in Ormond Beach, which is like 5 minutes north of Daytona. They bought it like basically right after the financial collapse in 08. They got nothing. And they were being hounded constantly by
I bought mine in Tallahassee, right before the bubble.
Hi guys.
It was a bummer.
yeah, you got screwed on that.
Full body.
Like sacks.
Well, you know, it took until 2022 or 2023 before my to be able to sell it. Because then it was back to, I went through, after that bubble burst, the house was underwater. It took years to get back up on after under. So, yeah, so it was a nice house too. Not too much bamboo.
Yeah, it's the weird things down there. Like you got to worry about lizards. You know, it's there's like odd things in Florida that you don't think about. Everybody's got septic. They
No, I think the real one. I lived in like North Naples for a little bit. Like down to get back to the house. And I see this giant hole, you know, across the road. I just shuddered. I was like, I can't believe that was that big.
they're fast. They're fast.
Faster than you think.
I assume you're talking about Allen. But
Yeah, huge.
yeah, they're. I mean, for the most part, they're slow, but they have these bursts of speed that are just terrifying. It's even more terrifying because they're all being killed by pythons.
Yes. Yeah. They're so basically everybody. Yeah.
Thankfully, Ormond Daytona doesn't really have that. They just have horrendous palmetto bunch.
Yeah.
I was at the Daytona Boardwalk, which I never recommend anyone to go to. It's garbage. This thing, this big on my shoe. It's the highest kick I've ever delivered in my life.
I'd say it's not just there. I had problems with it in Tampa. I had problems with it in
2 chairs right here.
Those
$20
are like that. Yeah.
You ever get those giant grasshoppers?
I don't think I got grasshoppers.
Oh, they're like this big. You can see their facial expressions. They're so big. They're wild.
But where I lived in Tallahassee, in that big thing, where I had to do it with rubber.
Are those like the little ladybug things?
Not ladybugs, but they look like little fireflies, but they come in different forms, and essentially they're just like windshield coverings because it was like that was like around because like we got a lot of really wooded areas like Tallahassee, Apalachicola, and places like that. And that's where there's really the worst part of Tallahassee. it's like here in terms of humidity, but then just to get the according to 6 degrees, it just sits in the valley because there's actual topography in Tallahassee.
Never been to Tallahassee, but yeah, when there's no breeze coming off that ocean, even right on the coast or near coastal, it's brutal.
Yeah. I tell you, Tallahassee is pretty cool. Appalachian Coast, about an hour west along the coast. That's one of my favorite places. This is Little Oyster Town.
My favorite place down there is St. Augustine. It's like being in a movie.
Sure. Here. Good? Okay.
Folks, we're going to go ahead and get started, so if everyone would quiet down. I got the high sign from our former city manager from 2 decades ago, Will Tarani. So it means speed it up a little bit. Mr. Tarani, it's great to see you. Love getting called out. Yeah. Hey, I just want to thank all of you. This is far beyond what we expected. I'm sorry that we are out of chairs. And on behalf of the Intelligencer and the Wheeling News Register, WTRF TV, Brent does really show just how important this race is for Wheeling, for its future. I know opinions can differ, but I feel a lot of really positive momentum in Wheeling right now. A lot of good things happening, a lot of challenges as well with the streetscape and other things, but we'll leave it at that. So how we're going to work tonight is we're going to give everyone about a minute and a half to introduce themselves and just talk briefly about why they're running for Wheeling, to be the next mayor of Wheeling, excuse me. And then we're going to turn it into questions. Again, Steve Moore from WTRF is going to be our timer, and then asking questions, I think, at the end as well. But really tonight, I want the focus not to be on me or on you. I want it to be on these 6 folks who have courageously stepped up and been running a really good campaign to be Wheeling's next mayor. I mean, I look at all this and I've covered the city of Wheeling for a quarter century now. I can't tell you who's going to win. And I bet you in all the time before this, Nick Spartiana saw come in, I knew Nick was going to win because Nick's focus was Wheeling and he had a great message. Right here, these 6 people, I don't know who's going to win. And I think that's excellent. It's so much fun. And it's really going to make for an interesting night on May 14th. As we decide who our next mayor is going to be come July 1. So with that, my musings are done. Real quick, I'm going to introduce the candidates. From your left, we have Dennis Magruder. Dennis will be up first by the luck of the draw. Next to Dennis is one of the current council members, Rosemary Ketchum. Another current council member, Chad Thalman, Beth Heinball, JT Thomas, and Carl Carpenter. I'm sorry, this mic seems to be cutting out a lot, so I will switch mics here in just 1 second. You're fine. It's fine. Well, thank you. So with that, Mr. Magruder, would you like to give a 90-second opening statement on who you are?
I would, John. Thank you very much, and thank you. I wish the theater was always as crowded in my days as it is here tonight. But having said that, I'm Denny Magruder. I'm a Wheeling native, grew up here. I have a wife right here, Barb.
Stand up. Stand up.
It works.
Okay, let's try again. I'm Denny Magruder, lifelong resident of Wheeling. I've been married to my wife Barb for 56 and a half years. We live in here. Okay. We live in Edgewood. I have 3 adult children that are all in the audience here tonight, at least for the time being. They have some other commitments. I also have 9 grandchildren. A couple of them are here in the audience tonight. And so one of the reasons I'm running for mayor is because of that. I have a great passion for Wheeling. I've grown up here, as I've said. Wheeling's been extremely good to me. My family experienced a serious tragedy when I was a young man. They rallied around me. It was unbelievable. I've been a victim, as many of you have been in the last few days, of flooding out on Miller Street. The neighbors have always rallied, and so we want to get something back. Now, that's one of my reasons, one of my main reasons for running. Second reason, I've had a long and really self-rewarding career in jobs, mainly at the arena and Wheeling. I've worked for the city before that, in jobs that relate to city government and local government. I think that's taught me an awful lot about how government works. I think I've learned a lot about what to do, and maybe more importantly, what not to do, all right? So that experience, I think, allows me to bring experience to the table. And then I retired about 1.5 years ago, so now I'm blessed with time. I have the time to devote this job. And so I'd appreciate your consideration. Steve says time's up. Thank you very much.
Hello, everyone. My name is Rosemary Ketchum, and I was talking to Denny, and I said, if this many people showed up to city council meetings, we might look like a different city, for the better. So just remember, twice a month we have city council meetings. I hope that you decide to attend. My name is Rosemary. I am a member of City Council representing East Wheeling, South Wheeling, Center Wheeling, and Mozart, some of the coolest neighborhoods in our city, and frankly, some of the neighborhoods experiencing the most growth and momentum. I moved to Wheeling in 2010. I am not a Wheeling native, but so grateful to be ingratiated by this city and to give back in all the capacities that I've been able to. I am also an alumni of West Virginia Northern. This is where it all started for me. I love the folks here, and so I'm so grateful for the investment that they have made in this community. I have a background in mental health. I served as the Associate Director of a mental health facility for many years here in the city of Wheeling and got to see directly the challenges that our most vulnerable community members face. I also served as a governance director for a nonprofit organization in our state, teaching elected officials how to govern. I'm really empowered by the voices that I see here in the room and the work that's happening across the city of Wheeling. I ran in 2020 on a grassroots campaign focused on issues like infrastructure, housing, public transit, homelessness, one of the biggest issues that we're facing, and small business. And in this campaign, we are doubling down on those issues. I believe that we are in an inflection point and that we have never experienced momentum like we have now, and that my governing experience will prepare me for the next 4 years as your mayor. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Chad Thalman. I've been on city council for the last 8 years, and back when I was first elected in 2016, people thought that Wheeling was beyond repair. A lot of people thought that our best days were behind us, and that decline was our only future. And over the last 8 years, under the leadership of Wheeling City Council, we've helped turn that around. And today, our city is making a comeback. And instead of hearing people talk about the past and what we've lost as a city, what I hear now is people talking about what's taking place today. What can take place in our future and what's possible. And this change in attitude didn't happen by chance. It was the result of hard work, having a plan, and strong leadership. And what leading a city isn't just about taking over when it's easy, it's about being there when it's hard. And we've had some hard moments in the last 8 years. We've taken some tough votes. And while I think we're on the right path now, there's going to be tough votes and hard moments over the next 4 years. And I believe I have the experience and the track record to handle that challenge as mayor, just like I've handled it over the last 8 years as your vice mayor. So in the last 8 years, we've made significant progress to our infrastructure. We've revitalized our parks and playgrounds. We've enhanced public safety. We've even earned Wheeling national recognition when Fortune magazine in 2023 said Wheeling was one of the best places in the country to raise a family. We're making progress here in Wheeling. We're focusing on our neighborhoods, and as your next mayor, I want to continue Wheeling's comeback.
Hi, my name is Beth Heinbaugh, and I am a mother of 8, a grandmother of 13. Right. I own 4 businesses, and we have over 50 properties in the city. I'm running because I believe in the potential of Wheeling and the citizens of our city as well. I want to be an advocate for our community and for our citizens. I advocate right now for our for childcare, and I do have the ear of Charleston, which I think is very important. I can pick up the phone and call the governor any day, and I get the answers. So I think that is very important, to be connected to on the state level as well. I'm a leader that is not afraid to roll up my sleeves. We just had the flooding. I was out there every day helping to clean up the mud, which is nothing new for me. Anytime there has been a flood in the past, I've always been there to help. We need to finish cleaning up the city, but not just the dirt. We need to also work on the bureaucracy as well. I have a common sense approach to how I would like to govern the city as well. My experience as a business owner, but also as a law enforcement officer, and as with the community development that I have done, also as an EMT and a volunteer firefighter. I believe that I have a unique perspective to how to run the city, and I very much look forward to being your next mayor.
So everyone, you put the booster chair on my seat. Very funny, I'll get you back. I'm JT Thomas, 52-year-old lifelong resident of this city. I gotta tell you, a lot of people have asked me why I'm running, and the reasons I'm running are plentiful. I have a lot of pride, a lot of passion, a lot of energy for this city, as do all of you, as evidenced by your presence here tonight, and I thank you for that. This really harkens back to 20 years ago when my father passed away. Had a long line to come in the funeral, 3 blocks long, but upstanding members of the community with their own parents walked through and tell us they wouldn't be where they were today without his guidance. And my mom was much the same, and that really, really resonated with me. I've told my wife, Tara, for 25 years, numerous times, you know, we have nice things, our kids don't want for anything, but what have we done to give back to the community that has given us everything? And so now that our kids are grown, 22 and 20, again, I wouldn't say they're independent. They still need some guidance from time to time, as do I. But now we have the time to give back what we feel is necessary in order to do this job correctly. And I'm not a politician. I'm just one of you, your friend, your neighbor, looking to make a difference. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for coming. When I look out, I see a couple people that I call friends and a couple of relatives, but most of you I would have to address as fellow resident or citizen of Wheeling. I also want to thank the host of this event, because as the unknown, unconnected, and unfunded candidate, I appreciate the opportunity to become better known to you who are interested in choosing the next mayor of Wheeling. I've never had a prestige job. I don't run a business. I just live here. I moved to Wheeling in 1991, and I finally decided that I'd had enough and that I was going to run for mayor, because first of all, I just want to make Wheeling paved again. I also think that I can use practical common sense to guide the city in the future, rather than having delusional aspirations that Wheeling is a big city. It's really not. In 2020, there were 27,062 people counted by the U.S. Census Bureau. So we always had to live within our means. There were things we couldn't do, places we couldn't go. I see my time is up, but I just want to tell you, I want to make Wheeling a nice, friendly, small city where we can all live together.
Folks, what I would ask is that as we go through, let's try to keep applause down a little bit. It's going to eat up a lot of time if we clap after every question or every answer. I love the enthusiasm, and it's fine with opening statements, and you can do it at closing statements as well. But as we go through, let's let these candidates get time to think and talk and without interruption. So as we'll go tonight, we'll go from your left. The next question will go to Rosemary Ketchum, so we'll just roll down the line as such. I'm going to start. I'm not a big person on hypotheticals, but I thought maybe an easy way to start and help to continue to loosen ice for each of the candidates. I'm going to start with a scenario, and we're going to give each person 2 minutes to answer. So it's July 1, 2024. It's your first day as Wheeling's next mayor. That's when the term will begin. And you're taking office, and you have the chance to do one thing on that first day to make Wheeling better, to move Wheeling forward. What do you do? What is it that you think would be an easy thing to do to help Wheeling improve? Ms. Ketchum?
Great question, John. The first thing that I would do is meet with my team. When I was elected in 2020, I assumed that being a member of City Council meant that I could be part of a team with a unified vision. Unfortunately, that was not the case. Of course, we are, folks with different values occasionally, with different ideas, with different reasons why we ran for office, but I really wanted a convener, a united front on the City Council. That didn't exist. And so the first thing that I would do as a member of, as mayor of this city is to convene our team for an open listening session to get our values on paper and to understand exactly what our vision for this city is. Of course, we have our comprehensive planning meetings that occur. We have a comprehensive plan that happens every 10 years, but that just exists on paper unless you have a group of 6 people and our mayor working toward that every single day. That's something that I try to do as a member of City Council. I frankly respect and love every member that I get to work with every day, but I didn't feel for these 4 years that I was part of a unified front and vision, and that's something, of course, that I think every member of our community deserves from their elected officials. That's something that I would do on day 1.
Thank you, Mr. Stone.
Yeah, thank you. On day 1, I don't think I'm going to do much different than what I've done every single day for the last 8 years as your vice mayor. One of the most important things that I've focused on and that City Council has focused on in the last several years are quality of life issues. We focused on public safety. We've made record investments to keep Wheeling a safe city. We focused on parks and playgrounds. And over the last 8 years, we have renovated and restored almost every single park and playground in the city. And there's around 30 of them. We've invested in baseball fields. We've invested in paving Heritage Trail. We've invested in splash pads. We've invested in dog parks. Back in 2016, we didn't have any dog parks here in the city of Wheeling. Now we have 3. We've invested in paving streets and alleys. We still have more work to do, but in the last 8 years, we have paved more streets and alleys here in the city of Wheeling than were paved in the previous 20 years combined. That is something I want to continue to do as mayor. We still have much more work to do. We focused on getting more events at West Banco Arena and the Capitol Theater. We created an entertainment endowment fund to help facilitate more events. We've tried to make Wheeling a place where people want to live. Every single council in the country is focused on jobs. Jobs are important. But one of the things we've tried to do over the last 4 years and over the last 8 years is also make Wheeling a place where people want to live. In the era of remote work, some people can live anywhere. And we've tried to make Wheeling that place where they want to live. We focused on bringing more housing to the city, particularly in downtown Wheeling. We focused on removing Blight. We've really focused on our neighborhoods because that's where people spend the majority of their time. That's what I've done for the last 8 years as your vice mayor, and if elected, that's what I'll continue to do over the next 4 years as your mayor.
Yes, I would start with visiting all the departments within the city and meeting the employees, the people who actually make the city work. I would also set up a meeting with Mr. Heron. I think he's brilliant, and discuss the vision of the city and where things are headed and where we need to take them. We need to continue our movement. We need to continue growing. We need to get out and talk to the businesses in the city too, and see where we need to take the city bring it to its next level. So I think, like I said, the most important part would be on my first day would be to get in there and meet the people who help keep the city moving.
Mr. Thomas.
Thank you. Thanks, John. Again, that is a great question, and ironically, it's one that I actually have thought about. What do we do on day 1? We've all been very, very, very busy. For me, at least, it's been super exciting, and And I appreciate meeting those of you who I have met, and certainly over the next 4 weeks, plan to meet with the rest of you. But, you know, our job is not done once elected. That's when our job begins. And to me, that job, being elected by you are electing us to represent you. I've been to a lot of ward meetings, I've been to a lot of safety meetings over the past several weeks and months, and unfortunately, the attendance is just not there. So for me, I would also meet with my team and let them know that I think we need to be held accountable. I think we need to make sure that we hear from you, and that our decisions are not decisions we're making for you, but decisions we're making because of you. So we need to find a better way to coordinate these meetings and disseminate that information so that everybody knows when and where those meetings are being held. So to me, our most important job, and something I would start from day one, is to making sure you, the people who elected us, are represented.
Mr. Kirby?
I think the job on day one and every day thereafter is to listen to the people and find out what they want and what can help them, whether they're running a business or whether they're just living here. And I think that's my job. That would be my job, would be to respond and to help the people who live here.
And finally, Mr. McGrew.
Yes, and I believe it's been stated already, but the important thing on day one is organization. I think if you walk in there as a new mayor, brand new mayor with a new council members, you do need to sit down and convene with those people, find out a little bit about each other, and a little about what our thoughts and dreams are. But one of the things that I like to do is that we need to make sure that we, as other candidates have said, involve the community. I pride myself on team building, and that's what I've done in my career. When I was in the arena, the people who worked with me were not considered employees. They would tell you that I describe myself not as a boss, but a quarterback. And I think that's what you need to do. We need to sit with people. We need to listen. We do need to gather their thoughts. And we need to build teams, not just with city council, but with the administration, certainly with the media, because they're the vehicle that we get information out to you, and with the public. So it's really about team building, and that's where it starts on day one, and that continues for as long as I'm your mayor.
This next question starts with Mr. Thalman. You actually leads in really well. You mentioned Wheeling's housing stock. You know, you talk to realtors, you talk to economic development specialists. You know, they'll tell you flat out, Wheeling does not have enough of the type of housing that families that relocate to this region for jobs or whatever else are really looking for. And that just came up a few months back at the Economic Development Summit over at the casino. As mayor, prospective mayor, what can you or the city do to help change the housing issue in this community?
Yeah, I think there's a handful of things we can do. And first and foremost, we've been doing some of those things on city council for the last 8 years. We have new housing developments popping up in South Wheeling and in downtown Wheeling. We've worked with developers to form private-public partnerships to encourage more housing in our city. In the last 30 years, we went 30 years here in the city of Wheeling when there wasn't a single brand new building built in downtown Wheeling. In the last 10 years, we've had 3 buildings built. The Doors on Main, which is an apartment complex, a credit union, bank, and the health plan. And any day now, Tony DiCarlo is gonna break ground on new condos in downtown Wheeling. Go talk to Jeff Woda. Go talk to Tony DiCarlo. Ask them what it's like to work with the city of Wheeling. Ask them what it's like to work with myself and members of Wheeling City Council. They're gonna tell you we have worked hard to help them develop the city, to help them invest in the city, to help them bring more housing to the city. But there's more we can do. Wheeling's a city that's lost population for a long time. We have a lot of more traditional urban neighborhoods, whether it be downtown Wheeling, East Wheeling, South Wheeling, the island, that have experienced a lot of demolition. Those empty lots look like a missing tooth. I want to work with the developers to get new buildings on those empty lots where buildings once stood and rebuild some of our older traditional neighborhoods. Wheeling is somewhat landlocked, so we don't have the opportunity to build a lot of brand new neighborhoods. And if we do build brand new neighborhoods, they come with added expenses. that's new roads we have to maintain, that's new water and sewer lines we have to maintain. When we build housing in our existing neighborhoods, we already have the infrastructure there. From a business standpoint, that's our biggest return on investment. That's what we've been doing for the last several years on city council, and that's what I'll continue to do over the next 4 years if I'm your mayor.
Ms. Heinbaum, I will reiterate that responses here are 60 seconds for the next number of questions. So, Ms. Heinbaum?
Thank you. This is actually one of the things that my husband and I do. We purchase homes, we remodel them and flip them, or we rent them for a period of time. I believe one of the things that we need to do is get rid of more of the dilapidated homes, the ones that are not savable. There are some out there that are just beyond repair. So we do need to continue with tearing down the homes, which the city has started doing. They have actually torn down a record number of homes. But we need to continue that. There's still just so many homes that are in such disrepair. And then we need to start rebuilding those homes. A lot of people that I have talked to say that, they don't really want the apartment style living. They want the single dwelling homes. And as we're removing the homes that are in disrepair, we need to try to go in and offer incentives, offer ways for people to go in and start rebuilding this, to bring back those single dwelling homes for families when they move to the area.
Mr. Thomas?
Well, as you guys have probably learned by now, I'm a relationship guy, and I think the answer to the housing lies in building and fostering relationships, certainly with the economic developers and certainly with the real estate agent community, but more importantly, with our local agencies, the county commission, regional economic development, RED. I think we need to develop those relationships and collaborate on housing issues to make sure that if my plans are met to bring new residents to this city and reverse the decades-long decline in population, that we have enough housing and good housing that these folks can certainly come, and affordable housing. So again, my big importance to me would be on relationships with the real estate developers and economic development groups here in the city.
Mr. Carpenter?
Well, affordable housing and housing inventory is a major national problem, not just in Wheeling. But nonetheless, it is a problem in Wheeling. It combines with having a low-income population that imposes extra hardships on the ordinary people who live here. I personally have very strong objections to schemes that put public money into private hands. I believe that the most helpful thing the city can do is give people that own property the right to use it in the most economic way. I think economics drive everything, and you can't make an artificial situation in any way that's fair. I think if there's an economy here and you leave people free to use their property, it will develop.
Mr. McGrew?
Yes, it's been stated, there are several ways to address the housing issue. First and foremost, particularly as I went door to door, I noticed some of the vacant properties, dilapidated housing. We definitely need to continue to tear some of the dilapidated properties down and reinstitute that property. The second thing is we need to work on programs for people in neighborhoods to be able to afford and improve their homes so that the entire neighborhood gets improved. And when that happens, those vacant lots are more saleable. People moving into town are more likely to buy one of the older houses that have been maintained and fix it up. But the question still remains single-family unit housing. I've talked to several realtors. That is a problem. So I would suggest that we only look forward to maybe pushing out, perhaps on the hillside between Oglebay and Wheeling Park. There's some certain areas. I don't know that we're ready for annexation, but I do know there's ways to develop some of those properties. And yes, we have to extend water, sewer, and fiber, but I think that's an option.
And finally, Ms. Ketchum.
Housing is one of the most important issues that we need to address in this election. In 2020, the U.S. Census found that West Virginia had the sharpest population decline of any state in America, and was the only state not to have grown in population since 1950. Republican, Democrat, Independent, that is a mandate to do something differently. We talk about zoning code often. What does it look like to create more mixed-use property? When I talk to voters who say, we need more housing, I say, did you know that in 2001 it became illegal to build duplexes in the city of Wheeling? Zoning code needs to be thoughtful, it needs to be smart, and it needs to be built to make progress in our city. Infill is one of the most important things that we can do. Mr. Thalman mentioned the missing tooth. Exactly. I represent Ward 3. Ben Seidler represents Ward 2. These are the neighborhoods most impacted by blight in our communities. And I think there's a three-pronged approach. Oh, time. But the last thing I'll say is we developed 2 homeowner assistant programs. Jerry Slavinakis is in the room responsible for one of those.
Thank you. So please, let's hold applause, folks. Ms. Heinball, to you. In recent years, council enacted a $2 user fee to help fund what, as we see now, a new police department and hopefully soon, a new fire department headquarters. As the next prospective mayor, what are your thoughts on the current tax system in Wheeling, and would you support considering ways to revamp that system during your term in office?
Well, I can tell you, when I have been out talking to our citizens, they are not happy with that fee, not at all. They are very disappointed in it. They were disappointed with that they voted for it and turned it down. And then the council had turned around and said, sorry, we're gonna do it anyhow. So I do think that we need to look into that. We need to find out if there's another way, because the citizens are not happy with that. So when I'm in there, that's one of the things that I would like to look at and see if there's another way that we can do things, because they really, that's, like I said, it's one of the main things that they said. They were very, very disappointed that their voice was not heard.
Mr. Thomas?
Okay. Yeah, let's look at the user fee. As controversial as it was, it's $2 to pay 50 weeks a year is $100. I certainly think $100 of my money to go towards improving the city is certainly, when it comes to public safety, is certainly money well spent for me. However, I do believe that firmly that people should be able to choose how they spend their money. I think a user fee for an $8 million police headquarters and a $9 million fire headquarters certainly is a useful use for the user fee. Half of that is going towards the infrastructure improvements. However, we've got a $16 million parking garage that sits empty. I think without that, we may have been able to go without the user fee.
The referendum for the people to accept the $2 service fee failed. And it was imposed on the people Wheeling by a current establishment, which, even though I've never paid it, I personally strongly resent it. Because again, I think they built a big city police station for a small town that from now on is going to require high upkeep, maintenance, utilities, a lot of expenses from now on. In general, on taxes, I was never in favor of giving the city an extra percent on the sales tax, and I'm absolutely opposed to imposing income taxes on city residents. Absolutely, I know that there's been lobbying done before the legislature to try to authorize such schemes. I believe the cities should be low-cost, easy places to live.
Mr. McGregor. Couple issues. The $2 fee is a bit unfair when you look at everybody. If you look at some of the senior citizens that work part-time, maybe 4 hours. At the time that was implemented, I was the manager of the arena. We hired a lot of high school, college kids, and a lot of senior citizens that maybe worked 1 or 2 events a week. That means they would work 4 to 8 hours, okay? And now they all of a sudden have to pay $2 a week. After they paid $5 a park, we lost probably 25% of our part-time employees because of that. So I think it was a bit unfair the way it was administered. And I don't think the public is as upset about the fee as they are the way it was imposed on us. We just can't do that to folks. We can't say we're gonna let you vote on it, you vote it down, and then we're gonna put it in anyway. So if I'm mayor, we're not gonna act that way.
That's right.
I was not a member of city council when these that public safety represents 52% of the city budget. It is the single largest percentage of our general fund. Public safety is absolutely key. We have an incredible fire department. We have incredible folks working within our police department. It is vital that the city of Wheeling is supporting these folks. And frankly, when we talk about population retention or population attraction, folks want to make sure that their city is safe. I did not pass the user fee. I do think that it's unfair for folks on fixed income, because if you make $100,000, that's $2 out of your $100,000. If you make $10,000 a year, that's $2 a week out of your $10,000 paycheck. I think that's unfair. Unfortunately, the state of West Virginia does not allow cities like our own to do important work, and that's why it's important to advocate in Charleston for different policy.
And finally, Mr. Thomas.
Well, I am one of the unpopular ones that was on city council in the youth. And I did vote for it. It was a 6-to-1 vote, excuse me, I think it was a 5-to-1 vote. I think one person was absent. But I didn't run for city council because I wanted to be popular. I ran for city council because I wanted to do what was right. And let's talk about how it was imposed. 53% of Wheeling voters voted to raise their own taxes to pay for public safety. Unfortunately, in the state of West Virginia, we have to get 60%. West Virginia is the only state where you have to get 60% to pass a tax levy. So we were between a rock and a hard place. We had a majority of people saying, raise our taxes to make Wheeling a safer city. We had a minority of people that were against it. So we went back to the drawing board. We reduced the size of the public safety building. We split them up, separate police and fire stations to make them less expensive. And I would second what Rosemary said, that the city of Wheeling has no say in whether or not part-time people pay that $2. That's decided by the West Virginia legislature.
Thank you. Next question starts with Mr. Thomas, and it's funny how these things work sometimes, since you just mentioned parking garages. I'm not sure if you were referencing the garage I'm going to ask about, or one of the other empty garages in town. There's one right over here with the former senator's name on it. City taxpayers right now are funding a new $13 million parking garage on Market Street. That was the impetus for the Wheeling Pit Lofts project. As we all see, the Wheeling Pit Lofts project is kind of in limbo right now, despite what Mr. Kuhn might tell us. Yet the garage is nearing its completion. Not to be unfair again to the two current members on council who are running for this job, because you do have a record to defend on this. As you look at that project, Mr. Thomas, what are your thoughts? And do you think the city got too far ahead of the developer in getting the garage going without full assurances that Wheeling Pit Lofts project was going to happen?
I do, John. I appreciate the question. Again, like I said, you must be looking at different numbers than I did. I saw 16 million for the parking garage that is nearing completion, and really was built to support a 150-unit apartment complex in the old Wheeling Pit building that still, there's no progress being made there. We don't see anything. Where is it? Have we been duped again? Is this another Roxby situation where we spend a lot of money and turn, a lot of money on empty promises? So, I think that we have a lot of parking. We have 2 parking garages that are rarely full. I certainly think that I would love to see parking problems in this city, but let's bring the businesses, let's bring the residents, and create those parking problems, and that's a good problem to have. An empty garage is not a good problem to have.
I'm absolutely opposed to projects that encumber the citizens of Wheeling with long-term debt. It's designed to benefit private developers. And on the same subject, one of the things that I strongly resent, if you drive down Stone Boulevard, on the west side of the street above the parking meters, that used to be parked solid every day of the week, with people that parked their car there and walked to work in Wheeling. I'm sure that's what they did. The city of Wheeling couldn't stand to leave that alone. They made that paid parking, and now you have to have a permit to park on the hill coming down Stone Boulevard. And guess what? The city's not selling any permits. And I don't know where those people park now, but no one parks there. All day long, that parking is empty. And it's just another attack on the people who work here.
Well, as a person who focuses on accounting and fiscal management, I think was a poor decision. I think you put the cart before the horse. You need to make sure that that investment is secured. So, yeah, I don't like the idea that we built that parking garage before we had an absolute firm, signed, sealed, and delivered commitment. I think there would have been better ways to spend our money, and I agree, we need to look, parking is only necessary when the demand's there. So we need to make sure the demand was created before we built that garage. So I don't think it was very smart move on our part.
I think if the city of Wheeling had a second catchphrase, it would be, there's nowhere to park. It's something I hear all the time from business owners, from people who are touring our city, from people who work downtown or visit downtown. As members of council, it's something we hear all of the time. We just needed to review parking on Water Street as a result of conversations with business owners who say, hey, we want to do more business in this city, but folks are really struggling to find a place to park. Yes, we have parking garages. Center Wheeling, the intermodal, this new one, this will have 20,000 square feet of retail space, brand new in the city of Wheeling. I think that's valuable. And as when we're talking about population decline and housing, this potential Kuhn development will create 120 plus market rate apartments. I think that is an incredible opportunity for the city of Wheeling. And this is a tough vote, I will say that. But I believe that comparing Kuhn to Roxby is really disrespectful because they have an incredible record.
Yeah. With all due respect to you, John, and several of the people sitting up here, the parking garage wasn't built for Kuhn. It wasn't built for Wheeling Pit Lofts. It's being built to accommodate growth in downtown Wheeling. Go ask Jessica Barclay at Thrive what her biggest problem is. She's gonna say a lack of parking. And as far as spending taxpayer money to build a garage, to a large extent, the people who are paying for the garage are the people who are gonna park there. Everyone who parks in the garage will pay market rate to park in the garage, including people who live in the Doris apartments on Main Street, including the people who live in the Wheeling Pit Lofts. And I can tell you, we have been speaking to developers for the last several years, and there's a high likelihood we're gonna see more development in downtown Wheeling. There's a high likelihood we're gonna see more residential units built in downtown Wheeling. Those people need a place to park. I'm not willing to accept that downtown's future is decline. We are laying the foundation for downtown to grow.
As our population grows and as we bring businesses into the downtown area, that parking garage is going to be very vital. I believe that we need more parking. It will help with those who work at the health plan, for those who work at Williams Lee, for those who are moving into the downtown housing like Doris on Main and some of the other apartment style housing that is coming to the downtown. And our hope is to grow the downtown. So having the extra parking, I think, would be very vital for that. You know, I go to the businesses downtown. I've gone to Thrive. I've gone to, you know, to get my waffle with ice cream on it. and parking always is an issue. So I do believe that the parking garage is going to be a very good investment for our city.
Thank you. Mr. Carpenter, we'll start with you on this question. Talk about redevelopment for just 1 minute. City taxpayers right now are helping fund the rehabilitation of the 1400 block of Market Street. And there's push, at least tangentially, for Clay School to be rehabilitated. And if that happens, it will, you know, taxpayer money will be involved in that happening. These are the types of projects that don't happen without city involvement. And that doesn't mean they shouldn't happen, because otherwise, what's the alternative? So I think you made it very clear, but what is your opinion on the city's role in these type of projects, and what should the city do otherwise if they're not going to help be part of the solution in fixing some blighted buildings?
I think, again, we have to give up the delusion that we're a big city, we're a small town. And yes, Wheeling has magnificent structures that have already gone by the way and more that will. But there's nothing you can do to change the economic reality. And if the economic reality were to change, then these buildings would be taken care of because it was economic to do so, not because they were subsidized by the people that live and work in Wheeling. That's my short answer.
Mr. Burke? Yes, I believe redevelopment has to be done on an individual basis. We look at a particular building or neighborhood, we have to look, we have to come up with a business plan. We see what the financials. I'm a finance guy. I'm not gonna build a building or invest $2 or $3 million in it if we can't get the return on investment. We gotta get it back. We gotta remember that the city's money comes from you. So we're managing your money, and we should be investing money in tax base and return on investment. We've not done that very well, in my opinion. So I think as redevelopment, you have to look at each project separately, and if it can hold its own and produce the financials that say you've got a return on investment, we proceed. If it doesn't, we move away.
Ms. Ketchum.
Wheeling is the 5th largest city in West Virginia, and we are the first state capital. I think it's important that we act like it. I think it's important that we represent the values of our state and say Wheeling is a competitor and a leader economically and culturally. I represent Ward 3, which houses Clay School, and I made it a point as a member of council to bring it to city council and admin to say we should acquire the Clay School because it is the biggest blighted property in my ward. That was a risk, of course, but I think government should act. For 50 years, folks said, what is the Wheeling City government doing with all of these vacant properties? It looks terrible. And when we do act, folks go, what is the city of Wheeling doing with all of these vacant properties? They look terrible. And so it's vital that we are acting. And sometimes that, of course, involves public and private partnerships. We're working with folks out of Pittsburgh, Tipping Point, who are just stellar folks who do consulting on these kinds of projects. That's the kind of vision we have for the city of Wheeling, and important that we continue that.
Mr. Bowman?
Yeah, when I was first elected to city council in 2016, the city owned 3 of the 4 buildings in the 1400 block. The last city council that I was on, we did purchase the 4th building. And basically what we did is we had money set aside to demolish those buildings. But we decided ultimately to take that money that we would spend on demolition and to spend it on, and invest it on bringing those buildings back to life. An empty lot generates almost no tax revenue for the city. Those buildings, once full, once they're redeveloped, they'll have businesses on the first floor, they'll have people living above them. There will be property taxes that get paid, B&O taxes that get paid, and sales taxes that get paid. I come from a business background. I work at a local business. I have a master's degree in business. I've taught business classes at local colleges. Before I vote to invest city money in any project, I think about the return on investment. That's what we've done for the last 8 years on city council. We have invested in projects that give the taxpayers a return, and the 1400 block will do that.
Ms. Onion?
I believe if the money's available and grants can be obtained, then the city should partner and try to redevelop those areas. Those buildings, the Clay School needs to be torn down. It's a danger to the city at this point. And to the citizens who live around it. We have a lot of kids who, play on the field there, families, so yeah, we definitely need to address that building and try to do something with it. What I've heard from a lot of the citizens, especially around that area, is develop that space into like a community center, a space that can be used for children and families. We already have that amazing field right there, so we need to continue developing that space and have that space be more oriented towards something for, like I said, for children and for their families. We could, offer boys and girls clubs, something like that in that space that would be just pivotal for the children in our area.
And finally, Mr. Thomas?
Yeah, I certainly think it deserves or warrants looking at. It's a very, very important part of town, and we certainly need to provide some recreation for our kids, especially in that area, so that they want to remain here and they can stay out of trouble and stay out of harm's way, especially in that area. So it certainly needs to be looked at. I've also been married for 25 years, and I do follow a budget, and we need to remain fiscally responsible. I certainly don't think we need to live beyond our means. There's something that we want that we can't afford. I don't think we should take it from our neighbor to get it. So we need to find creative and innovative ways. I certainly think, obviously, economic development is a great way to do that. And if there's something that we want, we create a fund, look for grants to do that. But I certainly think we need all of your input in those individual ward meetings to know where your money's going.
Thank you. I'll be long-winded here for just a second because this is, I think, an interesting lead into what is going to be, I think, a challenging question or challenging issue for this next council. Earlier this year, I was in Charleston and had a chance to speak with a couple House members, all of whom were on the House Finance Committee, and at that time kind of bemoaning the state of the roads between Parkersburg and Charleston, I-77. And one of them said, well, you know, all the money's been going to Wheeling. Nothing else can get done. Well, we've had $215 million in I-70 Bridges project, $35 to $40 million downtown. And this gentleman implied, well, I hope you're happy because the well will dry up. So as the next mayor, if you come in and you get, you know, how are you going to work with that? Again, my crackpot understanding of it is, you know, aside, but that is potentially a very big concern moving forward with infrastructure, because as we all know with the streetscape, much of Wheeling is controlled by the state when it comes to our roads and infrastructure. Mr. Magruder, you're up first.
Yeah, as far as the streetscape, John, the project had to be done. We know it's a state project. It had to occur, so that part was true. I don't think it occurred the right way. Hopefully, we could have had a seat at the table during the design phase, and we could have worked a little better on that job so that the two main streets in our town weren't closed simultaneously. I can pretty well guarantee you that if that project occurred in downtown Charleston, they didn't tear up the two main drives at the same time. Now, I think, maybe, John, to answer the question, though, we're looking at, we spend a lot of money. We don't have a lot of this money that's coming down from ARPA and all this left. We've got to be really financially responsible, work very closely with the city administration to spend our dollars now very, very carefully, because we have to find money for infrastructure investment. And with these new buildings and new things we have, our operating costs are going up. I want to be careful that we don't implement new charges and taxes on taxpayers.
This city council is perhaps the most well-funded city council that we will ever experience. We received $30 million in American Rescue Plan funds. God forbid we ever have another crisis like we did with COVID, but that was an opportunity to do some really interesting and incredible work. But you're mentioning, there may be a well that dries up. This next city council will not have the same amount of money. That is true. Our budget, however, is $39.2 million. That's up 5% from the previous year. And that's up because of sales tax. That's up because of B&O tax. That's up because of so many of the incredible economic development that's happening in the city of Wheeling. And so we may not get $30 million next year, but we will continue, because of the economic development work that's happening, to see an increased budget and increased revenue here in the city of Wheeling.
Yeah, as far as the well drying up and Charleston not spending as much money to Wheeling, that's very likely to happen. But it's important that you have relationships with people down in Charleston, with our local elected officials. And as someone who's been the vice mayor for the last 8 years, I have those relationships. And I'll continue to work with our elected officials down in Charleston to get as much money as we possibly can here in the city of Wheeling. It wasn't easy to get them to commit to the streetscape project. For a long time, we didn't think it was going to happen. It wasn't easy to get them to commit to $17 million on the suspension bridge. For a long time, we didn't know if that was going to happen. But we went to Charleston multiple times. We worked with our elected officials down in Charleston, and those projects are funded. And I also want to mention that Wheeling is in pretty good financial shape. When I was elected in 2016, the city of Wheeling had a rainy day fund, or a cash contingency fund, as some people call it, that had about $1 million in it. Now that fund has over $5 million in it. So over the last 8 years, we've been fiscally conservative, we've saved money, and we've set Wheeling up for a brighter future.
So I believe that we need to operate with fiscal responsibility. As the only candidate who has started and operated successfully 4 businesses from scratch, I feel that I'm very confident. I feel very confident that I can help with the city's budget and with operating within its means. With Mr. Herron is extremely intelligent when it comes to finances and with helping to create the budget that the city follows. And I feel very confident that once I'm elected mayor, that I can work very well with Mr. Herron and that we can still continue to work within the means that we will have.
Yes, thank you. Listen, we've been very, very fortunate over the last 4 years to be blessed with a lot of federal money, COVID relief and ARPA money. And we certainly, that's something we haven't seen in our lifetime. So that's not going to be the case. So we really need to make sure that we're fostering the relationships with state, federal, and local legislators and those who can help us bring money and grants into our city. And one of the things that we can tout is that we are in a very, very unique position to bring money into this state from Ohio, from Pennsylvania, if we have the funds that we need. We're 5 minutes away from each of them. And if we can create what I think we can create, then we'll be funneling money into our city and into our state.
And Mr. Carpenter, finally.
Well, I'd like to back up for just a minute to the last question and just tell you that never once have I driven by that beautiful field in East Wheeling and not seen it sitting empty behind locked gates. To the question we were just asked, along with the Steelworkers International representative who's present in this audience this evening, on behalf of my fellow co-workers, I have gone to my employer with my hat in my hand to try to get better wages, benefits, and conditions of work. And I think that in the future, to help Wheeling, one has to be willing to go to the legislatures with their hat in their hand and get down on their knees and beg if that's what it takes. But Wheeling needs state support. If Wheeling cannot do all the things that it needs to do, let alone wants to do on its own.
Thank you. I'm going to follow up on that question, start with Ms. Ketchum, and talk for just a minute about the suspension bridge that Mr. Thalman did mention. Still awaiting final word from the state on its future, but I think as all of us know, it's not looking very good right now that it will ever reopen to vehicular traffic. There's only a few points of ingress and egress to the island, and as we saw this past 2 weekends with the flooding, that's an important piece. If you're elected mayor, would you petition and work hard with the state to get a new point of access, a new bridge from downtown to Wheeling Island? And where would you think it would be best placed?
Really good question. Our suspension bridge is perhaps the most historic piece of infrastructure in the state of West Virginia. It is absolutely incredible, and it's important that it is protected. One of the most complex issues is that when it is not on the Department of Highways, when it's not open to vehicular traffic, it's not open to Department of Highway funding, and that's millions of dollars worth of repair. And so there are big questions about that and who will pay for those expenses. I do think there's value in potentially a new bridge, new access point. There are 1,000+ people who live on Wheeling Island. It's one of the most populated inland islands in America, and it should not be a double island, frankly, without any access. And so I don't know where that exists. Maybe it's at the marina, maybe it's an Etnaville Bridge project, maybe it exists elsewhere. But yes, I think another bridge makes sense. Maybe it's at Heritage Port. That would be a multi-million, tens of millions of dollar project. But I'm sorry, I see this, but very, very important.
Mr. Thom.
Yeah, a new bridge would be great, but new bridges are expensive. We're not talking about $100,000. We're not talking about $1 million. We're talking about $100 million to build a new bridge. I think it would be wonderful if the state wanted to come in and build a new bridge, but I think that money could be better spent somewhere else in the city of Wheeling. It could be better spent to upgrade our aging infrastructure. It could be better spent to expand broadband capacity here in the city of Wheeling. It can be better spent to knock down blighted structures. It can be better spent to expand our water and sewer capacity and upgrade our aging infrastructure without raising taxes on our citizens. So if the state wanted to build a bridge, I certainly wouldn't stand in the way of it, but I think that money can be spent somewhere else better. And what I would really be more concerned with is that we use the suspension bridge in a way that's creative, that's innovative, if it's not going to be reopened to traffic. Can we have businesses, shops set up on the suspension bridge? What can we do to use that asset to benefit the community?
Ms. Steinball, what say you?
On that one, I have to agree with Mr. Thalman. I thought of the same thing. If the bridge is not able to be used for driving across, then we need to find another use for it. It's gorgeous. It's a part of our history. We need to make sure that it continues to stay there, but we need to figure out what to do with it. If we need to find another way on and off of the island, and if the funds were there, then yes, we would need to have another bridge. The Etnaville area would definitely be a good location for one. Also possibly closer down towards West Bay Car Arena, Main Street Bank area would possibly be another area. And once again, that would be a funding thing. So it's not something that the city can handle on their own. That is something that we would have to have help from on the state level with.
Mr. Thomas.
Yeah, I can tell you this, I certainly feel for the people on the island. To fairly answer this question, I think we would need to see some studies on some traffic patterns, how many cars are exiting and entering every day, and how that compares to other areas in need of bridges or certainly that have multiple bridges. So I'm very underprepared to actually answer that question on whether or not I would support it. I certainly can't jump on board or reject without seeing the necessary information, an information guy and a relationship guy. What I can tell you is that I would form those relationships, and certainly if the studies supported it, I would do everything in my power and fight for Wheeling and Wheeling Island.
Access to Wheeling Island is certainly limited. And the suspension bridge was a great asset to the people who lived there. And I'm old enough to remember when after an event at the Wheeling Island Stadium, that bridge was solid with cars and trucks and buses. However, if it's not safe, it's not safe. But I don't think it's practical for the city of government or reasonable for a city this size to contemplate building a new bridge. And if that were to happen, it would be in the future, and it would have to be done as a result of a state project or a project that we wouldn't be able to control or finance.
I'm going to say that, you know, if the city or the federal government, the state or the federal government want to pay for it, we certainly need to look at a new bridge, because if you're one of the island residents right now, number one, you have an access problem. If there's an accident on the interstate highway, you might be stuck if the highway's closed. You might be stuck. Secondly, the property values on the island with one access point are being adversely affected. I believe in a holistic approach for Wheeling, that we should help all neighborhoods. We're putting the island at odds. Business development's probably not going to occur there. Certainly the people down at the casino are not happy with one access point. So if we can get federal state money to put another bridge in, traffic studies, yes, have to be done, locations have to be determined, but those people desperately need another access way. There's a large population and their property values are at stake.
Thank you. Did have a request, everyone on stage okay? Do you want to, anyone need water or a break? Let's take 5 minutes.
Thank you.
We've got 3 hours.
You never had. Right.
Let's take 5 minutes, come back.
John, where do you want to put the, can I just go on for a minute? I was like, where do you want to put the justice site? Somewhere inside? Yeah. So shot we got for an hour and
Well, I'm here to come. I can't do anything on my name. Find a place to put it.
that's about as good as we're going to go.
And the blossom of the deer and oh, I just don't know.
Trying to calm me down, but I was
If there's any more water. Thanks, man.
So it's all over downtown.
Going to be a good week for you, no? No, maybe not. I missed the move. Thank you for
And by the way,
Stephen, probably in about half an hour, like, I'll pull you over there, and wrap up, perfect. Hey, I'm going to take you off, that all right? Yeah. No, I think, you know, this is actually, yeah, it looks really clear. Yeah, we're actually allowed some of the look at the folks, let's go ahead and get seated so we can restart. It's near my bedtime, so I don't want to hold you all here too long.
I'm gonna be here till midnight, John.
John, you want these on now? I turned them off because it's too noisy.
Okay, folks, I hope everyone had a chance to grab some cookies and whatever else you needed to do, but we're going to go ahead and get started. So we can quiet down in the back, please, so we can let the candidates get situated and we can get on with some interesting questions. Start singing. If I start singing, everyone will shut up. They'd probably leave. Okay, hey, thank you all. I hope everyone had a nice break. We're going to get back to our questions. Our candidates are so eager, they've agreed to stay until 10 tonight. So we will get back to some questions here. I'm going to focus now on city government itself for the next few questions. And we are starting back with Mr. Thalman. Both Wheeling and Ohio County continue to face population issues, losing residents. The current population now of Ohio County, which includes obviously Wheeling, is less than Wheeling's population itself was just 40 years ago. That's a pretty sobering thing that I think we all need to keep in mind of how we rebuild Wheeling's population. One item that has been kind of hanging around now for 15 years, and I've been accused of being the only one who even gives a darn about it anymore, is metro government. Particularly in areas such as public safety. I think Councilman Ketchum mentioned that more than half the city's $39 million budget is in the police and fire departments. If you were elected mayor, I guess first, what are your thoughts on metro government? And would you support exploring that as an option to be more efficient in governmental spending moving ahead?
Yeah, I come from a business background, and I think we have to continue to explore every single option to make our government more efficient and to save money. It's foolish not to. And population loss and aging infrastructure, I think, are our biggest challenges as a city. We have been losing population for 100 years. It's simply not sustainable. And we have to take steps to turn it around. And I think we've been doing that over the last 8 years, and our population is leveling off. We are not losing population at the same rate that we used to. We are not losing population at the same rate as our neighboring communities here in the Ohio Valley. And one of the things we've done that I keep talking about is we've made improvements in quality of life. We focused on public safety, we focused on roads and infrastructure, we focused on recreation. We are trying to make Wheeling a city where people want to live. That's the only way we're going to turn around the population loss. Every city council in the country is focused on jobs. We're going to continue to focus on jobs, but we have to also focus on quality of life and making people want to live in Wheeling, stay in Wheeling, raise their families here.
Ms. Seinball.
I believe that we need to sell our downtown, our Main Street area. We need to work on recruiting people to come to the area. We have a huge population that are now working from home. So I think that is a big focus, a big place where we can look at. Trying to recruit the people to come to Wheeling, and we need to build things up, build up recreation, make things more family friendly, to try to bring them and try to recruit them and show them what we have here and what we have available for them. So I think that's where we need to focus a lot of our time.
Mr. Thomas?
Yeah, I certainly wouldn't be opposed to any discussion at all, or any ideas at all, if I felt that it would be better for the city of Wheeling and the residents in it, then I certainly would be in favor of that. I do believe, though, that we certainly need to collaborate more, especially with the county commission. I know that that's a relationship that's been strained somewhat, and I certainly want to help mend that for sure, because I think we're all on the same team. When the city wins, the county wins. And when Ogilvy Park wins, the city and the county win. And Wheeling Hospital, or WB Medicine Wheeling Hospital wins, we all win. So I certainly think collaboration and mending relationships will be certainly at the top of my list.
Mr. Carpenter.
You asked me another question I hadn't given much thought to before now. But I can see that there would be efficiencies and advantages that would be possible. For instance, instead of paying for coverage of two separate law enforcement entities, you have a police department and sheriff's department. So I can see where there might be a lot of advantages and opportunities to save revenue, and I would consider discussing that.
Mr. McGrew. I certainly would consider collaboration. I do think we need to work more closely with the county government. I think they're willing, I think we're willing, we need to sit at the table. I don't know about consolidation. I think that's a ways off. There are some political differences between the city and county. But certainly there's some things that we could share. Police, fire, there's probably other things, planning, and we mentioned earlier, population and extension of water and sewer lines. I still think even if we don't consolidate the governments, there's ways to do that jointly. So absolutely, that's worth a conversation, and it would be at the top of the list. It's about building partnerships. And final discussion.
So for the past 5 years, not only have I worked for the city of Wheeling, but I've worked in consultation with many other cities in West Virginia, Morgantown, Huntington, Charleston, Parkersburg, working with those elected officials to help design their own city governments. I would not actually be in favor of a combined metro government system, not at this point in our development or investment. The progress that we're making and momentum we have is incredible, but it's very delicate. And from my experience, I don't think that our city council, I don't think that our city admin would be ready to take on such a challenge, maybe in the next 10 or 15 years. But what I will say is that collaboration among our county and our city is absolutely critical, and I think is the secret ingredient for moving our city forward. A lot of folks will talk about investments or relationships that don't exist between the city and the county, and that's not imaginary. That is true. We've had convenings in the past that have made for some incredible conversation, but that needs to continue in a stratified and organized way.
Okay, this next question starts with, my apologies. The next question starts with Ms. Heinball. And I think it's a pretty straightforward question. Do you support the work being done by the current city administration? And please explain your yes or no.
That's a loaded question there. So, I support some of it, and there's some that I don't support, which I think is fair to say for most of our city. There are things that they have done that I think have been done well. There are some other things that I think they have done very poorly. I think we need to get away from the causes and the social justices, and we need to focus more on just the day-to-day running of our city.
Mr. Thomas.
Yeah, I think it would be very hard for me to work with somebody who supports the Cleveland Browns. I like to associate myself with winners. No, I think we as a city have been very, very fortunate with the leadership that we have. I think we should consider ourselves lucky to have had them as long as we have. I certainly look forward to working with them. Our job as council is to evaluate those performances and make those decisions when that time comes. But from the outside looking in, I can say that I feel very fortunate to have had them as long as we have.
Mr. Carpenter. So I take that as a yes?
That's a yes.
Mr. Carpenter.
I thought I made my position clear earlier on the other questions. But the answer to the question is no. And I'll just tell you, had the city administration not acquiesced in the streetscape project, we would not have endured these years of deliberate and unnecessary destruction. And you can't navigate or drive anywhere in Wheeling, and it's not just downtown. It's streets south of 16th, it's South Wheeling, it's Center Wheeling, it's everywhere, and I don't support and approve it, and that's why I'm running to be mayor.
I absolutely approve of Bob Herron. Listen, I've had the pleasure of working with Bob in my positions at both the arena and the theater for 20 years. Several developments occurred there at the arena, the improvements. It doesn't look like a warehouse anymore, it looks like an arena. I'll tell you, the key player in that was Bob Herron. He was the engineer, the mastermind. He understands TIF financing, he understands bonding and how to get it. And many of the things that have happened in our town, like it or not, are because of Bob Herron. And I will tell you, in response to Carl, Bob had nothing to do with the streetscape project. It was approved by the state more than 8 years ago under the regime of Andy McKenzie. That's when we got the approval for that. So, I mean, you just have to take what it is. Listen, Bob and I work together. We don't always agree. We have some knockdown, drag-out arguments, but we respect each other. He's an excellent city manager.
Ms. Ketchum.
Yeah, so the streetscape is an enormous issue. 200 people found their way to downtown Wheeling on a Thursday night. I think that is an indication that while the streetscape is complicated, folks can overcome the complications of the detour. I have faith in you, City of Wheeling, that you can do it. You're proving yourself tonight. I would not be running for mayor if I did not believe that we needed new leadership. I absolutely have loved my time as a member of council, and folks have asked, why didn't you just run for another 4 years to represent Ward 3? And I thought about it. I love the neighborhoods that I represent, but I believe as a city that we have to be bold, that we have to be innovative, that we have to lead creatively, and ultimately in a united way. It's one of the reasons why the question about what would you do on day one, I spoke about creating a unified front, and that's something that I believe needs to happen, particularly for the next 4 years.
And finally, Mr. Thalman.
Yeah, I think we're heading in a positive direction. I think there's excitement about what's going on in the city of Wheeling. I think people are optimistic about Wheeling and about our future for the first time in my life. And let's talk about some of the development that's taking place. We have 4 new buildings that are being built in downtown Wheeling or recently built. We haven't experienced that in decades. We have buildings all over our city that are being rehabbed and brought back to life. Sales tax, property tax, B&O taxes, all that revenue is up. Not because we raised those taxes, not because of inflation, because we have more commerce taking place in the city now than we did years ago. Things are heading in the right direction. And as far as the streetscape goes, I know as well as anyone the difficulties traveling through downtown, walking through downtown, but the idea that a $40 million investment, 90% of which is funded by the state, is somehow bad is something I strongly disagree with. As mayor, I will fight to get more investment in this city, not less.
Could you answer the question with the current city administration? Trying to get everyone on the record.
I work very well with the current council and with city staff. I think that we are at the point we're at now is because so many people have worked together so well for so many years.
Thank you very much. One final question on government itself. Obviously, we put an oversized amount of emphasis on becoming the next mayor. It is the head of the city, even though it's just one vote on council. Starting with Mr. Thomas, could you provide an example? Being mayor is being a collaborator, being a leader. Provide an example from your personal life where you've led in a situation that you think will carry over well to your time as the prospective next mayor.
I've had leadership roles my entire life, from the time I was a kid all the way up through high school, and for my 27 years at Wheeling Hospital running the sports physical therapy department. My leadership skills, my interpersonal skills, and my ability to build relationships with those who matter, I think speaks volumes to what I can do for this city. Again, we are not a mayor-centric government. The city is run by the city manager. We are a figurehead, a head of council, a cheerleader, a promoter, somebody who can go outside the state and bring people in and let them see the city through my eyes, with my passion and my energy and my love for this city. So leadership is in my blood, and I ooze leadership. So I certainly think that I'm certainly qualified on the leadership role.
Mr.
Carpenter.
I just want to say that as the mayor of Wheeling, I can't solve the major problems of the United States. And the mayor of Wheeling is nothing more than a member of a committee or a council. He may preside over it, but he only has one vote. So as a leader, the job is, I think, to collaborate with and persuade other people of that committee to your point of view. And my experience doing that is in labor negotiations and dealing with large powerful corporations and still making progress and getting wages and benefits for our members. And to tell you that I want to solve these major problems or create a great city, I can't tell you that.
Mr. McGruder. Providing leadership is one of the reasons I'm running. I think my background and career says that I've been involved in leadership for the last 50 years. I was a comptroller business manager at Marshall County Schools, responsible for a $35 million budget, building it, administering it. I was twice elected as the president of the West Virginia School Business Officials, which meant we worked with subcommittees of the state legislature, approved that. For 36 and a half years, I managed West Banco Arena. We negotiated many contracts. We negotiated union labor contracts with stagehands, with iron workers. We negotiated contracts for shows and events. We oversaw construction projects. On average, we had about 330 employees per year. I said to you earlier, I never referred to them as employees. They were team members and I was the quarterback, but it was my responsibility to account for them. And I believe that when the Wheeling Nailers came to town, I was the catalyst, and I was also the catalyst at the Capitol Theater. I didn't bring the Capitol Theater back, but I was in charge of the team that did. Ms. Ketchum.
So representing Ward 3 for the past 4 years, I have leaned in and given everything that I could to this community, so much so that folks have said, does Rosemary have a real job, actually? I consider this a real job, for sure, but I have served in a variety of capacities, currently as the executive director of the West Virginia Nonprofit Association. I have also worked as a mental health provider at the Army Greater Wheeling House. And some of the one leadership moment that stands out to me, working with our homeless community members, realizing that one of the greatest barriers to accessing the tools and resources that we have in the city of Wheeling is not having an ID, a state ID, a birth certificate, a social security card. I made an active effort to invite an organization from Los Angeles to build a program here in the city of Wheeling called Project ID that would provide free of cost social security cards, birth certificates, IDs to members of our homeless community. That was an example of leadership from years and years ago that I carry today.
Mr. Coleman.
Yeah, I've had the opportunity to serve in management and leadership roles ever since I graduated college 20 years ago. I currently work full-time as the vice president of a local company. I've been the vice mayor for the last 8 years. I'm the only person running for mayor who's been on council for 2 terms. I'm the only person running for mayor who has any experience serving as the vice mayor, which I've done for the last 8 years. I'm the only person running for mayor who's received the endorsements from some of the members of Wheeling City Council, including the current mayor. These are the people who know better than anybody what the job takes. I'm the only person running for mayor who's received the endorsement of local labor. I'm a businessman who understands the importance of local labor. I understand the importance of investing in our community, not just in our community's infrastructure, but also the importance of investing in our local economy and our people.
And last, Ms. Heimel.
I believe I have more than one example. I am probably the candidate that is most invested as far as business-wise, property-wise, public safety-wise, and family-wise. With the amount of experience that I have from working within law enforcement, with owning and operating our own businesses, and with obviously running my family as well, since we do have such a large family, I am very good at multitasking, and I believe that my experience with all of that will definitely help with becoming your next mayor.
Very good. Next question will start.
Next question will start with Mr. Carpenter. I'm going to do 2 yes or no questions and we'll rotate through just real quick. You don't need to give an explanation. We're going to move to some social issues. First, do you support the city's current camping ban on public property?
I intend to say a little more than just no. I think the city treated the poorest among us in the most callous and cruel manner that's possible. And no, I do not support what they've done to the homeless community in Wheeling.
Mr. Magruder?
Well, I think first and foremost, when we talk about the homeless in the camp, we have to worry about public safety and public health issues. And not only for those that are unhoused, but for the rest of our community. So I definitely support the city's move on banning random camps. I did support the idea of a managed camp. I think that's a transitional piece. There are different kinds of homeless out there. Listen, I am very compassionate, but we have to enforce the law and make sure that all people, the unhoused as well as the other citizens, are safe and abide by the health regulations.
And folks, we're going to have a couple questions on the homeless, so really just a yes or no here would be great. Sorry to make that clear. Ms. Ketchum?
Let the record show that I did not support the encampment ban. I thought it was a poor policy.
Mr. Thalman?
I voted for the encampment ban with the exception that the city manager has the authority to give exemptions for a managed camp. I believe that was a 5-2 vote, and I was part of the 5 majority that supported the ban.
Ms. Steinbach?
I am in support for the ban, and like others have said, I believe that we do need to come up with a compassionate way to handle things.
Again, another yes/no question that we will get in a little more deeply in following this. We'll start with Mr. Magruder. Mr. Thomas, I'm sorry.
I do support the encampment ban for a multitude of reasons that we'll talk about.
Excellent, thank you. Perfect. Very good, thank you. Mr. Magruder, again, another yes/no. Homeless liaison position will sunset at the end of this current term of council, June 30th. Do you support continuing that position if you were the next mayor?
And I didn't hear the first part of that, John.
The homeless liaison positions will sunset on June 30th.
I do not necessarily support that position.
Ms. Ketchum?
I think as a result of the work that's been done, I would have to review it, but I might say no.
Mr. Thalman?
Yeah, the position has not sunsetted yet. The next city council will decide that, so there's still time to decide. But right now, I'd be leaning towards no.
Ms. Steinbach?
I also would be leaning towards no.
Mr. Thomas, I'm not going to forget you this time.
No. Having not had a chance to evaluate that position and know all the requirements, and again, outside looking in, I would have to say no as well.
And Mr. Carpenter?
I do not support eliminating the position. I think the city should look for compassionate ways to help everybody, especially the people that need it the most.
Ms. Ketchum, this one will start with you. And of course, you can speak to this as a member of council, but how, in your opinion, has Wheeling handled the homeless crisis, and how should it have handled the homeless crisis?
So, as I mentioned before, homelessness has been one of the biggest issues that I've faced. I represent Ward 3, which is perhaps the most impacted community by homelessness. It's the only ward that has been considered to host the encampments. I think that we have handled the situation of homelessness at the city level very poorly. I led the charge to hire and create a position of homeless liaison. One of the reasons I might not support its renewal is because I think it is solving the problem. One of the biggest challenges that we've had is not having a low barrier shelter. If you're not a woman, you're not eligible for the YWCA. If you're not a veteran, you might not be eligible for some of the veteran services. If you're a person who is in active addiction or mental health crisis, there are very few places to go. So, I think that we've handled it poorly. I'm so grateful that we were able to pass a homeless liaison position. And hopeful that we'll be able to continue building relationships with the incredible service providers that are in our community.
Mr. Thom?
Yeah, I stand by the way I voted and the way the majority of city council voted. I happen to disagree with the idea that anybody should be able to camp anywhere, at any time, for any reason, without permission and without rules. I don't think that's good for the homeless, and I don't think it's good for the city. I don't believe that enabling people is helping people. I want to be compassionate, and that's why we gave the city manager the authority to allow for an exemption allow for a managed camp. I was absolutely appalled to see the city come in and bulldoze camps. I know every single member of city council was appalled by that. That is not what any of us wanted. That's the decision that city staff moved forward with. That's how they implemented the policy. But all in all, I feel very confident that city council made the right decision to pass that ban, to stand with our law-abiding, tax-paying citizens, and to allow for a managed camp so we can be compassionate and try to help these homeless individuals move on to a better life.
Homelessness is a complex issue, and we really do need to have a multifaceted approach to that. We need to work more closely with the community organizations who work closely with the homeless. We need to work with mental health services and with substance abuse programs. Through my work when I was a police officer, I noticed a lot of people, they go into a mental health facility or a drug addiction facility, and then they're kicked out, you know, whether they are ready to be or not. Once their insurance runs out or whatever, they are kicked to the curb. They're given a week's worth of medicine and told to figure it out. That's not okay. We need to work with legislators to try to tighten up requirements for those treatment facilities and to how they are released back into the population so that they're not just released into a homeless situation. So I believe, and the city cannot sacrifice its identity or its commerce. So we need to be able to handle this compassionately and try to work with those that can help us with that.
Mr. Thomas.
Yeah, I feel like, you know, we throw a lot of money at it, and we certainly moved it around from time to time, but I don't think we've even come close to solving the issue. Can we ever solve it and eradicate it? I don't think so. But I certainly think that we need to put the safety of our citizens first, above all, and that's not something I'm willing to compromise on. I certainly think that there are tons of great organizations, absolute angels, begging to help these people. I think we need to concentrate those efforts on those who want to be helped and want to reverse their situation, because I certainly think that those who want to help are certainly angels and can help these people if they want to be helped.
Mr. Carpenter.
I certainly don't think there's adequate help available. After what was done in Wheeling, which again was extremely cruel and callous, to take all the possessions people had, put them in a dump truck and haul them to the dump. But I've read a little more about this serious national problem that is greater in many cities than it is here. And the biggest driving factor, the biggest driving force behind it is not drug addiction or things like that. It's simply an unaffordable cost of housing. And again, that's a major problem that I'm not promising I can solve. But whenever the city of Wheeling treats people the way that they did, the people to the encamped homeless, they didn't do that as the city of Wheeling. They did that in the name of every one of us. And I resent that, and I think it was wrong.
And finally, Mr. McGrew.
Yes, it's very complicated. As I mentioned earlier, health and safety are first. If you have your kids and you go down on the waterfront of the playground and it's loaded with hypodermic needles and human feces, that's not a good thing for the unhoused or for the others. I'm a very compassionate person, but look, we got to take a look at how we do this. I see three types of homeless people, each requiring a different action. First, there's the criminal, the bully. They've been ill-treated and they've masked themselves as homeless so they can take advantage. I talk to people who used to walk behind the arena. They're afraid to walk there. Citizens should not be afraid to walk on our streets at any time. And if the homeless people are causing that, then the criminal element we must deal with severely and quickly. The second element is the addiction of mentally ill. And we've got to work with the social service agencies to try to help them, work with the state legislature. Yes, they need more money. You know, we used to have asylums and treatment centers. We closed them up and we integrated them into society and created this problem. And then thirdly, there's those poor people who are really down and out. The real homeless, the people that need help, they shouldn't be relegated to a tent. Let's get them into a shelter and get them back in society.
Thank you. For this question, it's a yes, no, but I would like to give just 30 seconds to each of you to explain if you'd like, particularly since two of the members on council voted for these bills. Some in Wheeling have have the thought that several pieces of legislation passed in the last number of years, including the Anti-Discrimination Act, Crown Act, should be repealed or rescinded. If elected as mayor, would you support or consider in any way repealing those, any pieces of legislation currently passed by this council, particularly as it comes to social issues? Mr. Thalman, you're up.
Yeah, the short answer would be no. Over the last 8 years, I've consistently voted to expand human rights, to maintain human dignity. I think over the last 8 years, we've tackled a lot of the social issues. I don't anticipate they're going to be coming back up again over the next 4 years. I think we've addressed most of them, but I stand by the way I voted. I believe in human dignity, and I would not vote to roll back the progress we've made here in the city of Wheeling.
Thank you, Ms. Steinbach.
I agree. There's no reason to repeal those. That's really all I have to say on that.
Mr. Thomas?
No, I think any policies that promote diversity and inclusion are good policies.
Mr. Carpenter?
I absolutely agree. I think everyone is entitled to their dignity and the respect of their fellow citizens.
Mr. McGurk? I would think that, I would certainly consider repealing them. I don't think the Crown Act is necessarily a good thing, and certainly I don't want to be a sanctuary city.
The city council has never addressed or ever even entertained the idea of a sanctuary city. These are not just feel-good policies, these are economic policies. When we talk to developers, they look for cities that are able to protect their employees, frankly. And so, no, I would not repeal any of the ordinances that we passed.
Thank you. I just have about 2 questions left, and I'll let Steve Moore finish up here in just a moment. Wheeling's neighborhoods. Obviously, Wheeling is a city of neighborhoods. If elected mayor, what would you do to help continue fostering Wheeling's identity as a city of neighborhoods? And that question starts with Ms. Heimel.
I've gone around and talked to many of our wards right now, and they're all saying that they want their wards to have their own identity. So, being a part of the city, but also being a part of themselves. I think we need to take some of the money that we have coming in and start focusing some of that into the different wards, and trying to start setting them apart a little bit. I think that would be an incredible investment.
Mr. Thomas?
Yeah, when I grew up, the individual identity of each of the wards or each of the boroughs or neighborhoods is certainly what made Wheeling what it was. I mean, if you, like I said, if you were from South Wheeling, you were very, very proud to be a South Wheeling Indian. And the Warwood Redbirds, they all had their green card, and they were proud of it. And the Elm Grove Civics would welcome us into their part of town, and of course, none fiercer than the Island Tigers. And I think those individual identities within the wards made Wheeling what it is, and we've lost some of that over the past 20 to 30 years. And I have a lot of ideas that can certainly help us regain some of that individual identity and pride in your neighborhood, which is very, very inexpensive. We start small in our own driveway, in our own street, in our own neighborhood, and that then trickles up to make Wheeling very proud of itself. Each individual citizen can be proud of Wheeling and their neighborhood and their street and their driveway. But yes.
Mr. Carpenter?
I think pride in our heritage is one of the strengths that we continue to possess. And I especially think that the city of Wheeling offers great recreation and has fantastic parks all over town. And what I would be in favor of is continuing or improving things that benefit youth and involve youth more in their own neighborhoods.
Mr. McGurk? I think the word wheeling spells out part of the solution in itself. It starts out W-H-E-E-L. That says wheel. In a wheel, there's a hub downtown, and there's a bunch of spokes, and that's our neighborhoods, whether it be Clare, Warwood, Elm Grove, Wheeling Island. Each of those spokes need to be solid to make sure that wheel's solid. So it's really important that we reach out, and I've done some ward meetings in all the wards, and yes, these people want their identity. I think we should sit with our respective council people and develop some programs that are unique to each ward. Example, one of the big things on Wheeling Island, the people are begging for a grocery store. So maybe they need something. Elm Grove needs some more parking close to each district needs its own, but we need to figure out with our council reps how we give each spoke of the wheel what they need to make that wheel solid. Ms. Ketchum.
I don't think I've ever seen a city that has as much neighborhood pride as the city of Wheeling. I think it is our greatest asset. When I think about the organizations that exist just to serve their neighborhoods, I think about Grow Forward Pride, South Wheeling Preservation Alliance, the Wheeling Island Community Association. These are folks that care about the broad improvements of our city, but they care a lot about their own neighborhoods. We passed a beautification grant so that is, I think it's live now, Mr. Coleman, or it's going to be live very soon, where each ward can apply for $5,000 to fund or support ward improvements. That's just a little example of the kind of work that we need to do to continue supporting organizations within those wards to support neighborhood improvements.
Mr. Thone.
Yeah, I think neighborhoods are incredibly important. We have some very unique neighborhoods here in the city of Wheeling, and neighborhoods are where people spend the majority of their time. They're where they raise their children. And downtown tends to get most of the attention, but the reality is over the last 8 years, we've made some major investments in neighborhoods, whether it be underground infrastructure, whether it be paving streets and alleys, whether it be fixing up parks and playgrounds, whether it be focusing on repairing sidewalks or adding street trees or even public art. So these are things that we focused on the last 8 years as vice mayor, and as mayor, I'll continue to focus that on the next 4 years because our neighborhoods are important and our neighborhoods matter.
Okay. Well, we're running up at 10 till 8, and I don't want to hold too much past 8, and I do want to give Mr. Moore some time. So I'm going to lead in with this in my final question that I'll ask. That we're going to start with Mr. Thomas. So obviously, we're very happy to have WTRF, and there's Brenda. I see Brenda back here as our media partner on this, and I think they do a great job as we do in helping support our communities. Brenda reached out to me the other day and said, "Hey, Steve Moore, Steve's 20 years younger than me. Steve would love to help." Yeah, Stephen would love to help. How can you get him to help? And and unfortunately, in my foolishness, my initial thought was, I know what I want this to be. I know how I want this to go, how to flow the conversation, and I don't need Stephen's help. But then I thought, that doesn't do Stephen any good. That doesn't do me any good in helping a young man who is committed to this community better himself and get a better, get a better role within our community. So Stephen is going to come up here in just a minute and kind of close us out. But my question to you along that lines is this. And I can speak firsthand that Wheeling often has been criticized for having the same people serve on the same boards and panels and commissions. Every blue ribbon panel had the same guys and gals. So as the city's potential next mayor, how would you work to get more voices, younger voices, older voices, voices of color, involved in the discussion in how we improve Wheeling? Mr. Thomas, you're on.
Well, I think it's very, very important. And one of the things that I plan to do is, if elected mayor, I would like to have a young mayor's council comprised of students from different colleges and high schools, maybe 2 or 3 from each of the schools. I think it's extremely important that we hear from our young folks and know what is going to encourage them to stay here, what's going to encourage them to come back and raise their families here once they've completed their educations. And whether that meets quarterly, via Zoom or in person, I think it's very, very important because, again, who makes people, right? People, especially young people. So it's very, very important for us to keep our young people here, and we need to know what they want to see, and what will keep them here. So that's one of the things that I plan to do.
Mr. Carpenter.
I think there ought to be more turnover, more fresh ideas and fresh people, more new faces, more inclusive of minorities, of women, and of youth. And I think our future as a small town should involve participation and the encouragement of participation by more than just old white men.
You're up. Go.
I was only talking about myself.
old white man might be a compliment because that means you have some massive experience that others maybe don't have. So, but I honestly believe that, yes, we've got to create and look at getting people involved. I've said this all in my ward meetings. The city has about 17 boards or commissions. First thing we do is look at those, see who's on those, see who's active. And you don't just appoint your friends to those boards and commissions. We need to look at resumes. We need to look at age brackets. We need to look at people of color. We need to make sure that's done. Maybe we need to create more boards and commissions. I might look to have a committee in each ward to work with their council person and be part of this. Input is necessary, and that's a salute to you tonight. When I look out here, you're willing. We just need to make that possible.
JT, I love the idea of a youth city council so much that I've already done it. The city of Wheeling passed a youth city council in 2022, and we are so excited to activate students in order to inform city council policy. I like to think that Chad and I are very young, but we don't see the city the way that our students see our city. And so that will be activated hopefully in the next couple months. We're very, very excited for that. I've also passed policy to mandate Mr. Heron to ensure that our boards, committees, and commissions reflect the diversity of our city. I just had a call yesterday about our Parks and Recreation Commission. We have 2 open positions if you're interested in serving. And I said, hey, not a single person of color is going to be serving on this board. We need to ensure that we're including everybody here. So yes, both of those policies have been passed. There's so much more that we can do.
Yeah, of course, I think we need to continue to do whatever we can do to be more welcoming, to be more inclusive. But we also need people to apply for these boards and commissions. We don't randomly pick names out of the phone book. People apply. They send in a resume, they send in a cover letter, they say what they're interested in and why they should be appointed and how they can benefit the community. And even if one of these boards and commissions doesn't have an open seat, send your cover letter in, send your resume in to the city clerk, she'll hold on to it, she'll put it in a file, and when one of those boards and commissions does have an open seat, we'll take a look at it. And I think anyone that's looked at these boards and commissions over the last 8 years, they know we're not just appointing our friends and family, we're appointing people who represent our community and who are going to do the best who are going to serve on that committee as good as possible.
And finally, Ms. Crandall.
I believe that we need to find a way to let the citizens know what positions are available, what spaces are available, and on what committees. Because I don't think that that's out there right now. They just don't know. So I think once we make it clear to people, what is available, and then show them and explain to them how to apply for those positions, I think that would be great. Once again, we do need to make sure that our boards are diverse, and we do need to, I think it would be a great idea to make sure that the same person is not on, 2, 3, 4 different boards.
Folks, I can't thank you enough for my part in this. To all the candidates, thank you for your answers. Stephen, you want to come on up and finish up here? And Stephen will also do closings. As you recall, closings, we'll start with Mr. Carpenter when we get to that point, okay?
Well, hello, everybody. We actually had nice weather today. Good change of pace. All right, so let's start off with, we touched on it a little bit in the last question. I'm 33 years old. I'm from Massillon, Ohio. Massillon, fairly comparable to Wheeling. Most of my friends that I went to high school with in Massillon no longer live in Massillon. And the reason is, it's not because of who's on council boards or really any kind of local policies, because there's no jobs. How do you plan on bringing jobs to the city of Wheeling? Good, sort of middle class, $60,000 to $80,000 a year jobs. What's sort of your idea on how to do that? We will start off with Mr. Carpenter.
I'm not going to say or promise that I can create those miracles. I think for that to happen, it takes a change in the overall economy that's beyond the role, is beyond the ability of the mayor of Wheeling to accomplish. That I'm trying to be a realist, not offer delusions.
All right, Mr. Recruiter.
Well, there's no magic formula for job development or economic development, but I like to look at it as an athletic event. I think the first thing you have to do is prepare the field for play. So we need to have an area where the streets are safe, they're paved, it's clean, it's conducive to business. The second thing you gotta have, if you're in the sport world, is a game plan. So with a game plan, you sit down with those players on your team, with the Regional Economic Development Authority, with the Chamber of Commerce, with the Convention and Visitor Bureau, with the State Economic Development Agency, so that we can work and develop a game plan as a team. And then third, we have to be opportunist. And that's where the state comes in. You know, many times when companies are looking, they don't think to call Wheeling and say, do you have a place? They call Charleston and say, where would you like to go? So we need seats at those tables. We have to be opportunists, and in the end, we have to put the full court press on. That means we all sell, sell, sell.
Ms. Ketchum?
So I represent the city of Wheeling on the West Virginia Workforce and Development Board, and when I talk to the folks, the experts in those rooms about workforce, the number one challenge for getting a strong workforce or more jobs in the city of Wheeling is commercial building stock. When somebody says, I want to move my business from St. Clairsville or Columbus or Pittsburgh or Cleveland, they look at a commercial building stock and they turn around and they look elsewhere. We need to ensure that the city of Wheeling is creating avenues and creating opportunity with building owners who may be holding these properties hostage, who may have no idea the value of their property or may be willing to sell but haven't been asked. That's something that the Regional Economic Commission can help with. That's something that the city of Wheeling should have its own community development efforts geared toward, because commercial building stock has been cited as the number one challenge.
Mr. Thulman?
Yeah, I think we have to continue to be pro-business. And in the last several years, City Council voted to eliminate the business license fee for downtown businesses that were struggling due to the streetscape project. We voted to provide money to local downtown businesses that have lost revenue due to the streetscape project. We have created innovative programs like the facade program, the outdoor dining program, the upper floor incentive program. These are public-private partnerships that create jobs, not just construction jobs, but long-term jobs. Look at Waterfront Hall. That was a building that years ago basically sat empty. Now there are numerous people that are working there every single day. So these are things that we've done over the last several years to reactivate some of our buildings, to create not just construction jobs, but long-term jobs here in the city.
Ms. Heinbaum?
We need to give economic development a chance in Wheeling. We need to focus on selling our downtown area to businesses, to bring them in, as well as our various other areas within the city, from retail, commercial, and residential. Offering incentives, streamlining the permitting processes, and access to resources to support our local small businesses. I think we need to work on focusing a little on our small businesses too, and finding ways to help them grow. We need to create a more business-friendly environment so that we can stimulate our economic growth. Talking to businesses around our city, that's one of the things that they say, that the process needs to be more friendly.
And Mr. Thomas?
Yeah, let me back up real quick. I thought I heard John on the last question, so we only had 30 seconds, so I cut it a little bit short. But let me go on record as saying I don't believe anybody should be elected to or kept from any position on any board based on race, religion, sex, or sexual orientation. I want to go on record saying that. Now, as far as this question is, again, multifaceted. What's the chicken and what's the egg? We need to bring people to our city so that businesses want to come here, and we want to bring businesses to our city so people want to be here. But I think something that we're missing is, the remote population has grown 5-6 times since COVID, and we have an incredible opportunity to recruit people here. There are programs out there. Ascend West Virginia is offering people thousands of dollars, $12,000 to relocate to West Virginia. I think we need to talk to Brad Smith and those running the Ascend program and make sure that we get on the list so that we can recruit some of these remote workers to our area.
All right, I had another question, but we've already been here for 2 hours. Brenda, I know back there, is telling me with her eyes that I have a story to get done by 10 o'clock. So let's just go right to closing statements, and we are going to start off with Mr. Magruder.
Mr. Carpenter.
Or Mr.
Carpenter.
All right, Mr. Carpenter, let's start. Let's go with you.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you all for being such a patient and attentive audience, and I really appreciate your time and your courtesy. I want to tell you, though, that there are 6 of us running for mayor, and this is not the first forum I've been to. If you're hearing what I'm hearing, there's 5 other candidates. that will do a good job as your mayor if you want to continue down the road we're going. But if you agree with me that it's time for practical and to be practical and show common sense, and I think I'm the one clear candidate. Sit up here and tell you how many streets and alleys they have paved, drive around and open your eyes. That's all you have. That's all you have to do. And again, I thank you. And if you vote for me, I promise I will serve diligently, honestly, and faithfully to the best of my ability. And again, I thank you for your time.
Mr. McGurtis?
Mr. Thomas, number one.
We're going
in reverse this time.
Mr. Thomas.
Yeah, so, listen, if you want to continue to kick the can down the road, and think status quo is the future of Wheeling, I'm not your guy. But if you want somebody who's just like you, a citizen here, a concerned citizen, who wants change, who wants to affect change, somebody who's very, very passionate about the city, somebody who has a lot of energy for the city, and somebody who has the ability to recruit outside business in the city with my current position and my overwhelming passion for the city, I'm your guy. I'm your guy, and I humbly ask for your vote on May 14th.
I would like to be your mayor so that I can be your advocate. I need your support, your ideas, and your participation, and I feel that together we can create a Wheeling that thrives economically and fosters a sense of community and protects our environment. Tonight I'm asking for your vote, your trust, and your partnership. And I'd like to work hand in hand with all of you to bring a brighter future, to make Wheeling shine, and to be the great city that we know that it is. I humbly, very humbly ask for your vote on May 14th.
Yeah, I just have a simple question. Is Wheeling better off now than it was 8 years ago? Are we on the right path? Do you think we should keep investing in paving, in recreation, and housing? Do you think we should keep bringing investment into the city? I believe we're heading in the right direction and good things are happening. I know the ingredients, I know the recipe, and I don't think it's wise to change horses midstream while so many great things are taking place. I don't have to learn on the job. I can keep working for you on day one. I have the knowledge, the experience, and the relationships to keep things moving forward and to continue Wheeling's comeback.
It has been the honor of my life to serve as a member of Wheeling City Council for the past 4 years, and I would be lying if I told you that I wouldn't be up here if I didn't believe that we needed new leadership, that we needed bold and thoughtful leadership to carry the ball forward. I believe that Wheeling has the greatest opportunity to perhaps any city in America to lead an economic and social revival focused on infrastructure, housing, small business, arts and culture, parks and recreation. These are the issues that I have given my time to as a member of City Council, and issues that I hope to double down on as your mayor. Please vote for Rosemary for mayor on May 14th.
I would say this, Wheeling has a very long history of harboring dreamers and idealists. And it started with Betty Zane, my fifth great grandmother, way back years ago when she ran out of the fort that afternoon, gathered the powder in her apron, ran back to the fort, and the Fort Henry was saved, and Wheeling was assured that we would be here today. It continued as the National Road rolled into Wheeling and provided us the gateway to the West, as symbolized by our suspension bridge. And shame on those people in St. Louis that think they have the gateway to the West. In 1863, the dreamers and the idealists in this town met across the street next door, and they created this great state, the only state born of the Civil War. Now, I look out here tonight, I see a lot of the dreamers and idealists. I know they're across our city. And so what I say to them, I say, I salute you all. I hope you'll join me so that we can turn Wheeling's dreams into reality and vote for me on May 14th.
on behalf of me, John McCabe, the Intelligencer, Wheeling News Register, WTRF as a whole, I appreciate everyone coming out tonight, doing your civic duty to listen and take stock of your choices for May 14th. Thank you to the candidates, and not much else to say, but have a safe trip home.
Thank you.